New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here.
Rev Brz right here.
And this is New Thought Today. Happens every Tuesday at 2 o'clock here on the New Thought Media Network. We're so grateful that you're with us. And before we dig in too far today, Z, I want to share with everybody a little bit of how excited we are for what's happening with this program. Because starting last week or so, I started a little email chain to a whole long list of people of asking who would like to come on the program and share with us a bit more about their ministry, but also a bit more about our topic, how New Thought is evolving and serving humanity's evolution. So I want to share with you just a little bit about some of the people that have said yes. Dr. Tim Stewart, President of the International New Thought Alliance, Reverend Ruth Miller, Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson, Mitch Austin will be back with us. You've seen him here on this program before. Reverend Dr. David Alt, Reverend Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones, Reverend Cynthia James, also a favorite of the network, Reverend Barbara Schreiner Trudell, Reverend Kathy Mastriani, Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer, Reverend Savannah Noel, Reverend Gina Colveria Krupka, Reverend Dr. Cece Coltrane, Reverend Bill Marcioni, Reverend Eamon Duffy, and here's the big one. Sharif Abdullah is going to be with us in September. And for those that maybe have been following this program, we talk a lot about Sharif here on this program, and we've had a chance to work with him once previously and on a different project, and now we're getting a chance to have him on this program, and I guarantee you that is going to be one not to be missed. But all of our guests are amazing New Thought thinkers, leaders, spiritual directors, spiritual leaders of various stripes, and we're really excited. I think it's going to be a great summer, Z.
Yeah. I got some corn on the stove right now boiling, and we're gonna get the barbecue grill out, and it's gonna be fun.
Exactly. So, and folks, if you're watching live, please feel free to join in. If you're watching at another time, please feel free to join in. Let us know what you think of today's conversation, and again, let us know if there's somebody we should have on this program that you haven't heard from, or somebody you believe would be a great fit to have on our program as well. All right. Well, Z, as is often the case, when we look at the evolution of New Thought and how New Thought can serve humanity's future, that means we've got to look at what's going on today. And what we know is today is a reflection of what the cultural, the collective consciousness of humanity from yesterday. And if we're going to have anything different than we got today, we got to get a new thought today. Yeah, it does go around in circles, folks. But yesterday, again, we're here talking about guns in America because of the events of yesterday. And there's a lot of belief systems. There's a lot of intersections. There's a lot of places where things overlap in this experience. And yet I can't count how many times you and I have had to discuss what are we going to do? And are we going to do anything really about responsible gun ownership, gun safety legislation, something to separate uh, what's happening from what we want to have happen? I don't think anybody wants school shootings.
No, no. And I'm agreeing with you 100%. No school shootings, right? And the funny thing is, not funny, ironic thing is, right now, what I heard this morning in Tennessee, there's a legislation because it's an open carry state, right? And so if you got it open, you don't even need to conceal it, right? If you got the right paperwork, right? But you got to be 21. And this person who did the shooting yesterday was 28, but now they're looking to drop that law from 21 to 18. It's literally in the legislation right now, and I mean it's becoming such a tragedy that we have these different incidents. I mean, we've had 3, I think, if not more, in schools where 4 people or more have made the transition. And why? I mean, with assault rifles, no one needs those other than military and SWAT officers.
Right. Exactly.
And if we got them off the street, the SWAT wouldn't need them because they wouldn't be fighting against them.
Exactly. I'm sure the stories are out there, but I very, very rarely ever hear of a story of a home invasion being denied because a homeowner has a gun. To me, there really is only 2 legitimate reasons at this point to own a gun. One is self-defense, and the other would be hunting, sustenance, sport. Now, what I also recognize is I have also never seen a hunter hit a deer with 50 bullets with a 30 magazine, with a 30 round mag, right? I've never seen a hunter out there with more often than not, most hunters I know eventually give up the gun and take up the bow and arrow because it's a bigger challenge and they still get the thrill, and it in that regard the weapon devolves. Here it's the automatic weapons, it's the bump stocks, it's automatic pistols that can easily be converted into semi-automatic or even automatic weapons. And I keep coming back to it. The easiest way is to get rid of the guns.
Yeah.
Now, I know that let's say sizable portion of the United States is going to scream Second Amendment and will now stop listening and has already turned me off or is already forming an argument against me or already looking for dirt on me so they can smear me or whatever it might be. But I look at other developed countries that have enacted incredibly strict legislation and they don't have these problems. They still have the mental health problems that are involved here. They still have the other problems that are involved that bring people to the point where they think a gun is going to solve their problem. But in other countries, they can't get a gun. This person, and we're going to dance around gender today a little bit also, folks, because the person in question is no longer able to help us identify what pronouns would have been appropriate.
Right.
The shooter was assigned female at birth. There are reports that the shooter used male pronouns for themselves in social media postings and in other places. Now, as often the case, we can't confirm any of that because all their social media platforms have been scrubbed as soon as this person was identified. As soon as the shooter, and this is common practice now, as soon as somebody is identified, social media platforms will scrub their platform of that person's profile, or they'll put it on hold. They'll black it out so that one, the family doesn't have to put up with all the trolling, and two, so law enforcement can look at that stuff without a lot of extra stuff being added into it after the fact. Regardless, there's the transgender piece that's involved here as well. But ultimately, all of that is something that could and would, I believe, be addressed, except for the fact that they were able to get guns so easily. 7 guns in their name, all of them legally purchased over the last several months. Only 3 involved in the shooting. The others were found at their home. And if we just didn't have guns, we wouldn't have this conversation. If we didn't have direct sales to individuals, if you had to do something to prove you were active military, well, again, you wouldn't have to. The military give it to you. I'm going to ramble. I'm off my rails today a little.
Yeah, and one of this is just coming out. Audrey texted one of her old classmates and basketball teammates and sent a message. Her last name is Patton. I forget her first name, Avriana or something like that. But she sent the thing saying basically that she was looking to. It was basically a suicide note, is what they're saying, and it wasn't a joke. And she called her father, and the father said call the suicide prevention, because at that time she didn't know what was going on. She just knew a former friend was threatening kind of a suicide, and so she called one person, they put her to another person, and she finally got somebody. And from what I understand, this first text came in around 9:57, 9:54. And by the time somebody got back to her, it was 3:00 in the afternoon. All of the activity had taken place and transpired at that point. But she had reached out to Miss Patton,
Right.
And she doesn't know why. I don't think it hasn't come out. She wasn't. She wasn't a day-to-day friend, but I guess some way she felt some affinity to this old basketball player and friend that she reached out to her.
Everybody and their grandmother's going to speculate on all these different points. It's really tough, but I tell you, it looks an awful lot like what I know, having a transgender team, is this is not something that gets decided. This is not this is going to be an easier way to get through life, or this is the hip thing to do now. And what I know is, through my own experience, these kids always knew. They just didn't know how to communicate it yet. They didn't know how to stand in their own skin and say, this is what I'm feeling. We don't teach our kids here in North America to do that either, for the most part. Some people, I'll hedge but this looks like another case where a young person knows they're trans, but isn't safe to share that, or isn't being supported in sharing that, or is being ignored. We don't know what the situation was like in their household. There has been reports that her mother was a devout Christian. The school in question is a private Presbyterian school. Audrey did go there, was a student there at some point. Now it is a K-6 school, so it'd been 20 years since she's been there. But it would appear this is in some way a lashing out. But now with these texts that point towards a little more suicide by cop. I found it interesting that when in the videos, when the police arrived, she began shooting at them more so than, it wasn't like she was hunting for kids. It seems more like she shot at anyone that got in her way, but it wasn't exactly targeted towards the people. And in her final moments, she was facing out towards the outside of the building. She was facing out the windows, shooting out the windows at the approaching police presence.
Yeah. And you know, we've had recent school shootings here in Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple of weeks ago. And now we have this one, and obviously none of them are wanted. I don't even know what the word is, but definitely they're not wanted, right? And so, at what point do we begin, as you were saying earlier, with the gun situation? At what point do we begin to really look at this and forget the lobbies and all of the money that people are making on these guns, and except, I mean, I'm from the South, had guns very early, understand hunting. I mean, in hunting, the motto is one shot, one kill, because I don't want to riddle my meat with bullets, right? Because now I may taint if I hit an organ or something that's not supposed to be hit, it's going to taint the whole meat, right?
Yep.
And so this thing with the automatic weapon, something that's used for war, is unheard of to be sold to just any person on the street, right? And then it appears, they said, that of the 3 guns that she had with her, 2 of them seemed to have been legally purchased, and then they found a couple of more at the home. We can track driver's license, and I mean, we can track all kinds of things on the internet, right? About someone who's bought something or is licensed for something to determine what's going on. And I don't know why this seems to be a problem with guns. And we talked the other day, I'm sorry, that if I buy the gun and it gets stolen and I don't report it, and you say, oh, I just realized it because, well, I mean, if you got a gun and you haven't looked at it in 6 months, I mean, that might be a problem itself. But I don't know. It's a very complex thing for sure.
Yeah. I mean, no, I agree with you. Some sort of this is the bare minimum. I'm going to go double down every chance I get. Just get rid of them and all these problems go away. But we could create another layer that says, hey, yeah, license, registration, and insurance, please. You want to buy a gun, license, registration, and insurance. And it goes to a national database, or it goes to even just a state database that says, I'm sorry, but you've purchased more guns than necessary over the past 6 months. And a little earthquake happening over at Z's house, folks. Don't pay no attention to the man in front of the curtain. But some sort of consistency that says there's no need to have that many weapons. There's no need to have that much ammunition. I have my mind flashes to that point, because this is where I found it really despicable these days, folks, is one of my least favorite politicians in America that happens to be out of the state of Georgia, held a press conference in front of a gun shop yesterday, crying that gun shop owner's livelihood and rights would be infringed by any sort of legislation to promote gun safety. It's despicable. And that's why, and she will not be named on this program ever again. We now have a she who not be named in our American politics as well. And we seem to love our guns more than we love our kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we definitely love our guns more than we love our black folk. That's another story for another part. That's another show altogether, folks.
Yes, yes. But when we look at this from a spiritual perspective, new thought perspective, right? And I don't care what religious philosophy or system you study or you follow, in most of them, because I don't know all of them, but I'm gonna say most, and that's a lot, the ones that I know and have studied. The prime objective is life is prime.
Right.
That is, whether you take it from any perspective, whether you're trying to create relieve suffering or relieve yourself from guilt or to be loving, it's all about the sanctity of life. Now we can go down a whole lot of paths on that, right? But
right
at the outset, the taking of a life, or that life is the ultimate goal on this plane, is what everyone's trying to do, and to make it fun and easy and loving and caring. And these kind of acts not only takes life, but it puts all those that are around it in a very defensive mode. They're now like, I'm not trusting anybody. So it creates an environment for these things to happen again more and more, because now the trust is gone and suspicion is increased. And I mean, it just gets to be a mess.
Yeah. I'm sure we talked about it at some point last summer when that happened for me. I was in my own neighborhood walking my dog, and I came around one of the corners and I noticed there was a couple, man and wife, walking a dog maybe 100 feet in front of me. And as I turned the corner, I also noticed that he's got a gun on his hip. And my body reacted, my psyche reacted. It's not, I don't think it's possible to not react in a situation like that. Because we all know that if I can see a gun, my life's in danger. And it doesn't matter who's holding it. Doesn't matter if they got a badge on. Doesn't matter if they're wearing camo. Doesn't matter if they got a Proud Boys emblem. Doesn't matter if they got a Black Lives Matter t-shirt. If there's a gun, my life is in danger. Now, it might be, the degree of danger might be less than if they had an automatic weapon and it was pointed directly at me. But even a handgun in a holster, even in an open carry state like here in Colorado, my life's in danger at that point. And I know how I'm going to react, or to some degree, but I can't guarantee how everybody else in a community, in a crowd, in a neighborhood, in the supermarket might react.
And here's the other piece to that, right? Is, you got the two camps or 2 points that are lining up. Oh, it's a gun problem. Oh, it's a mental health problem. And I'm saying it's a both and problem, right? Yeah. Trauma, the whole society has been inflicted with trauma over the last 2.5, 3 years, just on the COVID, right? I'm glad, and I hated to use that because that term is going away. Not that it needs to. People still need to be aware, but people have been traumatized, and it has brought up other kinds of traumas, and people are now in need of some counseling, of some support. And right now they're saying there's not enough counselors to meet the needs of the people who are seeking counseling, right?
Wow. Okay.
And so we have to begin to understand that our society has been notorious for having people repress their different guilts and fears and angers. And so when we know through repression, right, if we just take straight physics, if I block the hold on one thing, the pressure is going to build up somewhere else. and it's going to pop up somewhere else. And then if I do, and pretty soon I'm going to have a bad situation. And it's happening to us individually now. And we got pressures from everywhere: economic, family, environmental, and children being killed in school where it should be fun and it should be learning. And so now people are on edge, and pretty much everybody should probably have a prayer practitioner or a counselor, or better yet, have both.
Right. Well, and I absolutely agree with you. It's the both and. There is a gun problem. It is the guns. And yes, there is a mental health problem. And they have created that self-feeding cycle. The snake is eating its own tail here, folks. Where every gun shooting just increases that level of anxiety in the overall society.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, please don't go watch any of the videos that are out there. Don't watch the body cam footage. We did that for you, so you don't have to. Don't watch it, because it's heartbreaking to see images of armed men clearing classrooms and rushing through classrooms and not knowing if they're going to be. And it's been a long time since I've been in an elementary school classroom, but I tell you, those are things we don't forget. We all know what that feels like. So there is a visceral trauma that we experience when we watch these things. And again, so I encourage you not to watch it. We know it's real. We know this really happened. And we have to be able to start healing that trauma. As you said that about counselors, my whole mind went to, and there are how many professional science of mind practitioners that are highly schooled, not to be counselors, not to be mental health professionals, but to be a stopgap, to be a first line, to be somebody you can talk to, somebody that's not going to judge you, somebody that's not going to tell you you're wrong for the fears that you might have or the concerns that you might have. I have a kid in college and one in school. There's been 3 different active shooters within a mile of my kid's college campus this past term. Since the new year, there have been 3 different times where I've had to send a message saying, "Tell me you're okay." We are all feeling this, and we're going to have to start doing things differently.
And then think about all of those individuals now that are in classrooms, looking to go into classroom because that's their passion. That's what they got a skill at it, right? They can make a kid learn how to do anything, and they see this every day or every other day or how frequently it happens, and we already know we have an educational crisis on our hands, and they may not state it that way in the public, but we are on an educational crisis in terms of everything.
Yep. So I'm going to come back to one of your favorite points, Z. It's all connected. It's all part of one system. And we've got to find, and we're not going to drop a little fairy dust and have every aspect of this all get solved all at once, but we have to take action to try to disrupt the system that's there. It's not going to heal itself. It's not going to cure itself. It's not going to fix itself. And to me, the easiest piece of all of this is just take the guns out. If you take the guns out of the equation, at least that makes it easier to focus on the other parts. If we take the guns out of the equation, educators won't feel that angst and anxiety, won't feel like they have to carry a gun to be safe, and they can focus on education. If we take the guns out of the equation, the mental health professionals won't feel threatened that they're going to get shot or that they make a misdiagnosis and somebody does hurt somebody. If we take the guns out of the equation, we free up so much time, energy, and attention to focus on what really will change. And and help to heal future generations. Yeah, here I am again, folks. Just take away the guns.
And you bring up two things there. Two things come to mind, right? So because we're such a litigation heavy country, right? At what point counselors may begin, I hope this never happens, but if someone says, "Oh, I went to sent my kid to so and so and they still did this," they're liable, right? I don't know what that liability relationship is. I don't even know if there is one, but doesn't stop anybody from trying to bring some suits against you, and your whole life is disrupted, and that whether they win anything or not, after a year and a half, 2 years of going through that, you're destroyed, right? But it would be interesting to see. We got all this AI stuff going around. And it's a tangent on the AI stuff for a minute. I saw a program on 60 Minutes this Sunday where these are paraplegics and someone that's an amputee. They figured out ways for them to consciously, with their thought, make these limbs move and have touch and make parts of their body move that weren't available through some AI robotic, a connected thing together. But a good question to ask one of these AIs would be, given, you put in some variables, economic, military, mental health, what are some ways to balance budgets and everything to address these problems, and have it spit out some ideas about where the money should be and an approach to it? Because those are kind of legitimate questions, I think, that the AI could do really well on, because they have they got a breadth of information and knowledge on those various topics, and it will be able to see. It's not going to. We're not expecting it to give a right answer, but I'm anticipating that it will give an answer that's different from the norm. And
Let's see
what so
I to say.
All right, I mean because I mean, there's going to be, and there already is, the big debate about AI. And so all new thought and spiritual practitioners, get ready, because it's coming to your neighborhood soon, if it's not there already. And we need to begin to think about legitimate ways that are beneficial and helpful to the connectedness of all things on how to use these tools.
Right. I recently got access to Google's Bard. So here's the question I asked, folks. Here, why don't I actually just screen share it with y'all, and you'll be able to see this a little more actively. You might not be able to read it, but we'll share it with you just in case. How do we solve the problem of guns and school shootings in the United States? AI's response: there is no easy solution to the problem of guns and school shootings in the United States. However, there are a number of things that can be done to reduce the number of shootings and make schools safer. Enacting stricter gun control laws, providing more mental health services, creating a more supportive school environment, ensuring that schools are properly secured. In addition to these measures, there are also a number of things that individuals can do to help prevent school shootings. These include talking to children about gun safety, reporting any concerns about a child's mental health, being aware of the signs of gun violence. So I'm going to say, fairly standard answers there, and points to a lot of the things we've been saying already.
But here's the quick the thing with AI: the better the question, the better the answer, right? So
true.
So we will again have to be more articulate and more, and we may have to write the question a certain way a couple of times, get some more provocative, for lack of a better word, or some more engaging kind of answers to start thinking, does that make sense? Is it something that should go down, as opposed to having a big old conference on it, and everybody eats dinner and goes home and ideas, but ain't nothing happening.
Yes. And I just thought to myself, oh, that's what we need to do. We need to get all the AIs into one room. but it does point to something I've said for a long time. I forget where I got this. It might have been Dr. David Bruner. The quality of our life is directly proportional to the quality of our questions. And so here in the AI world, yeah, I agree. It wasn't the best question. There's only so many ways you can answer that question because it's biased in its own way. But as we look at this, and actually, I want to look at this and see if often they give view other drafts. Oh, yeah, they do have other drafts of this. And I like that about Bard. It gives you a few different choices. And so it comes back to refining the questions that we're asking. So the question might not be, how do we solve the mental health crisis in America? But the question might be, how do we mitigate or protect children or identify how mental health contributes to gun violence? There's a number of different ways I think we can look at the question, and rather than just one. Yeah.
And think about how your kids ask the question to you and they don't get the answer that they want. They go ask the question just a little bit differently to mom, or vice versa, to get the answer that they want, right? It's that same kind of initiative, if you will, that we have to begin to engage the AI, because you think anything that's been published about gun control or guns and safety, it's on the internet somewhere, right? In some cloud, something. Same thing about education or all of these things. You don't know how to get to it because your neural network on the web may not know how to get to it yet.
Right.
But the AI can figure it out.
True.
So let's start using this tool and see. I mean, I would tell people, start asking some hard, as they say, the hard questions to the AI. If nothing else, it'll start some good conversation.
Yes. Okay. So is it even so? That leads to the question: can AI provide us the answers to eradicate gun violence in the United States?
Yeah, and I think it could give us some different approaches and it may only give us different questions to ask, right? However, we know that once a human mind gets stuck in a certain vernacular, the questions and the places that they look for things and the way they do things are going to be within a certain parameter, right?
Right.
Whereas, and we know that there's certain emotions and personal experiences that are going to be involved that may add or limit what you really look at, right? But if we take the AI for what it's built for, it takes away some of the bias, not all of it, because some of the bias is baked into the information that's on the internet. But in most cases, I think it stands out pretty clearly, and we can deal with that. But to ask those questions where it's going to begin to eliminate some of my personal feelings and some of my own biases about asking questions that I may be 80-20 on, and it may, catch me at the right day. I may fall in the 20% category. The AI intelligence can eliminate some of that and give some answers or some pathways to start looking at that say, look, here's how you might approach this.
Right.
And then we can put the spirituality and stuff on top of it once we, in a more consistent way, once we have a different way of looking at it. Don't start from there first. Don't start from the religious or spiritual place first, because there may be some biases.
Right, exactly. So I did ask Bard the question, can AI provide the answers to eliminate gun violence in the United States? And it's the response was artificial intelligence can help to reduce gun violence in the United States by providing answers to some of the key questions that need to be addressed. And then it gives us the top 3 questions. So exactly what you're saying. We can train this to lead us to better questions. And those questions do include, what are the factors that contribute to gun violence? What are the most effective ways to prevent gun violence? How can we make schools safer? And other drafts have similar responses with slightly different ways to identify the threat.
Right. And so now, so you have a think tank, if you will, go and take each one of those questions and come up with some bullet points, and then you bring them back together and say, where is the intersectionality between these 3? Where do these 3? We go back to math now. What's the intersection? And when I look at the intersection, now we're going to come up with one or more subgroups or subsets, right? And so now we got multiple ways to attack one problem that appeared to be different, but when I look at the intersectionality and the subset of it, I see very clearly that it's all connected. Yeah. Even if it's just on this little sub-slice, that will affect the whole, because we know everything affects everything.
Yep. I'm a little bummed, because all of this means we can't just take away all the guns. I really wanted us to get to the point where we could just take away the guns, but everything else points to it's not that simple of an equation. It's not that, because the cause and effect that goes into these things are always going to be there. Yeah. And we can't, and I don't believe we can, and I don't believe it's healthy to build fortresses and call them schools.
No.
I think that we have to be willing to, well, I don't want to say in this case, I don't want to call AI a higher intelligence, but it is another intelligence to consider within the system that is the one, within this thing that we call God, this thing we call life, this thing we call divine universe. It's another aspect that and let's not treat it like the redheaded stepchild, right? Let's not treat it as if it were just another child in our lives, but this is it's AI. It's going to help if we let it help. It's going to help if we're willing to help ourselves. And just like guns, it could be used for destructive purposes if that's the human intent in it. Right. So we have to change the way people look at things. We have to change our default animalistic nature to try to defend ourselves when we feel we're in mortal danger.
And this is where the universal principles come in, right? And when we start classifying things as categorically right and categorically wrong. Now, there are some things that are categorically right in this sphere, right? In planet Earth, it is categorically right that gravity is everywhere. And if you step off a building, it will get you. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. There is the universal principle of gravity that says it's going to come into effect when you put yourself out of right relationship with it. Right. And so oftentimes we have categorized things based on system structure that did not take maybe a more holistic view of being right and wrong. What's right and wrong for someone that lives in the rainforest is totally not right and wrong for someone who lives on the desert, right? The priorities are different. The awareness of rain versus sun or marshland versus sand is totally different. And so if you try to implement or impose the mental system, if you will, that takes place in a rainforest in a desert, it's not going to work. There will be some similarities maybe, but there's too big of a distinction between the two. And so we have to find, again, those commonality points, or those points to at least begin a conversation and say, it's kind of difficult for me to tell you about or describe to you what it means when it rains for 3 months straight.
Right.
And it may be hard for me to comprehend when you tell me you're in the desert and you can't find water for 3 months.
Right. Yep. And I like where you're going, because it strikes me that it's right that humans reproduce, but that doesn't mean all humans. So it's not wrong if you choose to not reproduce.
Exactly.
There are those that like to make it wrong, and this is the homophobia at its core. It's wrong for you to not reproduce. It's right for humans to reproduce, but it's not necessarily right for everyone. And we can look at that in all aspects of our lives. It's right for people to come out and express their true gender identity, but it's maybe not necessarily right for everyone to be forced in that direction. It's right for us to defend ourselves, but there may be times where it's not right for everyone to act in that same manner. Right. This is going to get a little cloudy, folks. It's going to get a little murky. But I think you're onto something in a major way here.
And when we look at spiritual living, right? I mean, there's a couple of different ways to describe it, but for me, I think the easiest way is to say that there is a spirit, there's an animating part, however you want to decide it, whether it's a rock disintegrating into sand or it's a human reproducing another human, right? There is a spirit that's present in everything that is connected. Right? Because people, especially now with people looking at their immune system and all out of all that happens, when you look at your vitamin bottle, you want certain minerals. You want some zinc and some magnesium and some iron. You want some stuff that basically comes from rocks in your body. Now, if that don't, and without those rock elements in your body, you're gonna have a problem. Your eyesight may go, your bone may be bad, your blood might not be right. So clearly, for those with eyes and ears can understand the connectivity of all things. The thing now is to promote that and to understand that if we deplete, the zinc, now we're gonna have a zinc war, right? Because I don't know. Right. but we have to begin to really look at life this way, in a spiritual way, by meaning that there is a spirit that animates and activates and enlivens everything on this planet, and we have to figure out how we interact with it in a way that we don't disrespect it, that we honor the cycles that are present within it. Spring is here now officially, and we see the cycle of change. Whether you like it, want it, it ain't studying any of that. It's changing right now. Trees are blooming, flowers are coming up.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And so I'm reading a little Thomas Berry recently. I got introduced to Thomas Berry and just starting to read one of his books. And part of what he's professing, and I'm finding myself agreeing with, I think you will as well, is we've become so human-centric. We have forgotten that without planet Earth, we wouldn't have a rock to stand on. We wouldn't have air to breathe. We wouldn't have water to drink. We wouldn't have anything. And therefore, and the whole nature of the uniqueness of what it took for planet Earth to be in the right place, for humanity to even evolve, and whether the dolphins got more of the intelligence than we do, just less of whatever, who knows, right? But the point becomes, we've gotten so lost in becoming human-centric putting ourselves at the center of everything, that we have forgotten we are but one of a myriad of life forms right here on planet Earth. And some do appear to be a little bit more intelligent than we are. And some we have made subservient to us, but we fit in a unique place amongst the food chain, as it were, and we're not immune to being eaten.
Well, now, and you bring up a good point. You know, here in my neighborhood, rabbits are everywhere, and everybody's complaining about all these doggone rabbits, right? However, because we were so human centric, and we put too many houses and took away too much farm or too much wood, that rabbit now has no natural predator. There aren't any foxes close by. There aren't any coyotes close by, right? So now that particular thing goes unchecked. Rabbits and they can produce 2-3 times a year. So boy, they get busy. You're gonna have rabbits everywhere, right? And it's because we put ourselves, I think, partly at the center or at the top of the hierarchy, as opposed to one element. And we may take up, a fourth of the circle, but we got to look at it in a circle. And what's your slice, and how did that affect the other slices? Because I mean, we've already seen now in some of these third world countries, as they call them, where they use the deforestation is getting to a point to where it won't return, because they're cutting these trees down to warm themselves or to sell, to get food. But pretty soon, them trees ain't growing back. And it's going to take succulents, 20, 30 years to get to be an old growth forest again.
Right. Yep.
And now we got another problem by not looking at things as a oneness, as a connectedness to all, and try to understand it as opposed to trying to dominate it.
Yes. Here we are again, folks. We have to find our way to fit in with the system rather than make the system subservient to us.
Yes.
We're not the only species on the planet that has its own language. We just happen to be the most vocal about it, I think, sometimes. and again, I don't want to downplay being human. I love it. It's great. But we do have to look at how do we balance ourselves, and especially moving forward. Again, we know that we're on the cusp or beyond where we need to be when it comes to things like climate change. There is a very real possibility of wholesale extinction on the planet and a whole nother reset. I'm pretty sure the planet's going to continue. I'm pretty sure the planet knows how to course correct. I'm pretty sure the planet would do just fine without humans. So if we want to keep this thing going, we got to learn how to play better with our hosts and not kick sand, as it were, or destroy our environment.
And you just made me think about the interrelationship. Now if we go beyond the Earth and go into the solar system, when we look at events that are happening that only used to happen in certain parts of the country, like the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, would only happened up north, and like upper Canada and Iceland and all Greenland, all of there. They're now seeing that stuff in Virginia.
Yeah. They were here in Colorado. They were seeing
here in Colorado
the other day. Yeah. There is an argument that could be said that the sun is going to take care of us quicker than the earth will. But we're not going there today, folks, because that's a whole other episode as well. What we do want to do, however, though, before we come back and wrap this all up, we'd like to take just a moment of your time to say thank you to our organizational sponsors and our donors. These are the folks in the organizations that make all of this financially feasible. If you'd like to learn more about that, you're welcome to reach out to us. But we're going to be back. This takes about a minute, so don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back with our final thoughts on New Thought today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with you.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors and donors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, and all of our individual donors and sponsors. Thank you for being a part of the New Thought Media Network. Please come be you.
And we're back here on New Thought Today. My fellow co-host here, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and myself, wishing you a great day. And we're going to do our final thoughts before we wrap this up. Z, final thoughts for the day? Nope.
No.
Oh, there you are. Sorry.
I'm there. Am I there? Okay. Yeah, my internet is doing some little wonky things over here. Maybe them sunspots coming through. But my final thought for the day is for everyone to begin to think systemically. And if you don't know what system theory is or system thinking is, go through some deep dive, ask your AI, get your old encyclopedia out, do a Google search, but begin to look at the understanding of what it means to be a systemic thinker or to understand system theory, right? Because it is very clear that we are a system within a system. There's a system called the body. There's a system called the seasons. There's a system called the earth or the galaxy, if you will, or the solar system. And they all work together. And we need to understand the basic principles of that so that we can begin to live this spiritual life that is the spirit that is animating all of this, and we can be closely aligned.
Amen. You made that one hard on me today. I'm not sure how I'm going to follow any of that, but you're right there, man. We have to think the system. We have to think holistically, and to add to it just a little bit, we have to stand up and do what is ours to do. Not every one of us can solve every one of the issues and face every one of the things we're facing right here. We need to act locally, think globally, and do what is mine to do. Wherever it may be, where your heart calls, whatever issue, guns, mental health, homelessness, addiction, all the things that are going to need to be looked at with a new thought for humanity to continue forward from my perspective. So, all right, I think my doggies want some attention, or there's something going on I should know about. But, we want to say thank you, folks, for being with us again here on New Thought Today. We'll be back again next Tuesday with more. And next Tuesday, our guest will be Reverend Dr. Tim Stewart, president of the International New Thought Alliance. He'll be here with us sharing a little bit more about the upcoming International New Thought Alliance 109th Congress. For those that don't know, the International New Thought Alliance is the longest running, the oldest New Thought organization on the planet at this point, at 109 years old. They're outlasting everybody, and we're going to learn more about their 109th annual gathering happening in Fort Lauderdale later this year. So plan to join us for that next week here on New Thought Today. Until then, I wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.